It's funny how betrayal doesn't kick the door down like a movie villain. It just slips in, takes off its shoes, and helps itself to your whiskey. On Christmas Eve, I found 2 wine glasses drying on the counter. Nothing unusual, except one of them had a faint lipstick stain in a color my wife never wore, and I buy her every shade she owns. The guest list hadn't included anyone with cherry red lips, unless her mother suddenly decided to dress like a Vegas showgirl. But the clincher wasn't the glass. It was the smell of cologne in our upstairs guest bathroom, one I recognized immediately because I hate it. Savage by Dior, the scent of desperate men who can't afford therapy. We were hosting the usual holiday chaos, both our families crammed into our home, pretending to like each other over spiked eggnog and passive-aggressive compliments. The living room buzzed with laughter, kids tearing through presents, my father-in-law snoring in his recliner like a dying walrus. Meanwhile, I stood in that bathroom doorway, staring at the scent diffuser I installed last week, now fighting a losing battle against the musky aftermath of a man who didn't live here. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say a word. Instead, I walked back down the stairs like I had a secret gift hidden behind my back, and in a way, I did. I smiled when my wife looked up at me from the sofa, her face glowing in the firelight, surrounded by people who thought she was the picture of loyalty and grace. Her laugh was a bit too loud, a bit too sharp, and when I asked who had used the upstairs bathroom, she blinked for half a second too long before answering. "Probably your brother," she said. My brother, who has worn the same pine-scented deodorant since high school, and who was downstairs the entire time helping my mom slice the damn fruitcake. That lie was the first thread in the sweater, and I gave it a gentle tug. That night, after everyone went to bed, I watched the doorbell camera footage from the past 2 days, something I hadn't done in weeks. At 3:12 p.m. the day before, while I was at work, a man I didn't recognize walked up with the familiarity of someone who didn't knock. He had a key. I watched him kiss my wife in the doorway like it was his house. They laughed as they walked in. 10 minutes later, the footage cut. She had disabled the camera from inside. She forgot to turn it back on when he left, but I found the goodbye kiss anyway. 4:43 p.m., him walking out with a smug smile, adjusting his belt like he just got done doing something worth remembering. My stomach should have dropped, but it didn't. The rage never came. What arrived instead was a cold, sharp clarity that I hadn't felt in years. She didn't just betray me. She did it in my house, under my roof, during Christmas, with our families just days away from sitting around our table like everything was normal. That kind of disrespect isn't impulsive. That's planned. That's entitlement. That's someone who believes they'll never get caught. So I started planning. Quietly. Precisely. Because if she wanted to play games, then fine, I'd give her one. And this one would be a Christmas Eve to remember. It wasn't always like this. For the first 6 years, we were a team, flawed, busy, exhausted, but still a team. I brought her coffee in bed every Sunday morning, the way she liked it. Oat milk, cinnamon, 1 sugar. She used to thank me with a kiss on the cheek, a sleepy smile that felt like home. We had inside jokes. We finished each other's complaints. We shared playlists and grocery lists, bad shows, and worse wine. She was my person, and maybe that's why I didn't notice when she started to become someone else. It started small. She began going for runs again, long ones, alone. She said it helped clear her head. "You should try it," she joked one morning, patting my stomach. I laughed, but it stung. Her phone started living face down. She claimed it was to reduce distractions, to be more present, but I hadn't noticed her being more present with me. Her screen time went up, even as her attention toward me went down. I didn't want to be the jealous guy. I'd seen those guys. So I let it go. People change, I told myself. She's just rediscovering herself. Then came the boundaries talk. We were doing dishes after dinner. Nothing dramatic, no fight, just plates and suds and casual conversation. And she said, "I think I need a little more space. I'm trying to figure out who I am outside of being a wife." She said it like she was discussing a new diet. I asked if something was wrong, and she said no, not at all. It was just about personal growth. I nodded, smiled, played the supportive husband role because that's who I was. I was the guy who didn't cheat. I was the guy who worked long hours so she could finish grad school. I was the guy who canceled golf with the guys when she had a migraine. The guy who picked up her mom from the airport, who remembered her coworker's name even when she forgot mine. She kept smiling, but the smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. I couldn't remember the last time she looked at me with desire, only distraction. She started dressing nicer for casual errands, buying new clothes and leaving tags in the trash. Her gym sessions turned into whole evenings away. I checked her location once. It said she was at a park. At 10 p.m. In winter. Alone. I said nothing. I still wanted to believe. Then came the planner. She left it open on the kitchen table one morning when she rushed out the door. Inside were her goals, affirmations, quotes. Reclaim my body. Say yes to new energy. No longer apologize for being happy. Okay. Fine. Good for her. But next to a Thursday evening block was scribbled a name I didn't recognize, A. Just A, followed by a heart. I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse. I closed the planner and made her lunch like I always did. That night, I kissed her good night, and she turned her face so it landed on her cheek. I lay there staring at the ceiling, hearing her soft breathing and wondering how something could feel so close and so far away at the same time. She started sleeping in later on weekends, and when she woke, she scrolled her phone before she even looked at me. I caught her smiling at something once, some text, some post, and when I asked what it was, she shrugged and said, just something silly. She never showed me. She used to show me everything. One day, I walked past her car and noticed a gym bag in the back seat. No big deal, right? But inside it were 2 toothbrushes. 2. One pink, one blue. The pink one was her travel brush. The blue one I'd never seen. Again, I said nothing. Just zipped the bag up and put it back. I wanted to believe. I still clung to the version of her that made us pasta from scratch, the one who cried watching Marley and Me, who used to say, there's no one else I'd rather be bored with. But she wasn't bored anymore. She was busy. She had plans. Always plans. And I wasn't in any of them. Her social media, once filled with photos of us, suddenly went dark. She said she was taking a break from digital noise. But when I checked her account from a friend's phone, it was still active. Still updated. I just wasn't allowed to see it anymore. That's when it hit me. She hadn't drifted away like a leaf in the wind. She'd packed her bags and rode out deliberately, silently, while still smiling from across the dinner table. I was watching a ghost of my wife rehearse the role of a loving partner, while the real her had already left the stage. And I, the loyal understudy, was still waiting for my cue. It happened on a Wednesday, the kind of dull, overcast day where even the sun couldn't be bothered to try. I came home early, unannounced, unplanned, just a random decision driven by an empty meeting slot and a craving for real food instead of microwave sadness. I parked on the street instead of the driveway, out of habit more than strategy, and walked into the house through the side gate, the one she never remembers to lock. The house was quiet, too quiet for 4:30 p.m., especially on a day when she claimed she'd be home all afternoon finishing up a freelance pitch. I could hear music faintly, one of those lo-fi jazz playlists she never listened to before a few months ago, back when she said she needed better focus energy. I didn't call her name. I didn't announce myself. Something primal in me had gone cold. I moved quietly, each step deliberate, the kind of movement a man makes when he's not sure what he's hunting but knows it's something that will bite back. As I passed the hallway, I noticed her purse wasn't on the hook where she always left it. Her shoes, her red flats, the ones she called her running errands but still hot shoes, were tossed by the door, but her coat was missing. Then I heard her voice. Upstairs. Low. Intimate. Pausing between words in a way that didn't belong to casual conversation. The bathroom door was closed, and just beneath the hum of music and her hushed tone, I heard the unmistakable cadence of another voice, male, laughing, muffled through a speakerphone. She was sitting in the master bathroom, door locked, talking to him. I didn't need to hear every word. I only needed one. She said it, soft and sugar-laced, like a thread around his throat. I wish you were here instead of him. That was it. That was the moment. My pulse didn't spike. My jaw didn't clench. I didn't knock. I didn't breathe. I just stood there, frozen in time, watching the wallpaper by the door, the one we picked out together, while her voice on the other side of that lock twisted my stomach into a cold pit of concrete. She giggled. She called him babe. She said she missed his smell. The bathroom door separated us by only 2 inches of wood, but she might as well have been on another planet. And me? I didn't feel pain. I felt absence. A complete and final absence of illusion. The theater curtains had burned to ash, and there she was behind them, not a broken woman making a mistake, but a fully formed betrayer rehearsing love for someone else while sitting on the edge of a bathtub we installed together. I turned and walked away. Silent. Mechanical. I didn't even creak the floorboard she always complained about. I stepped outside into the cold gray light and sat in my car, not because I needed to leave, but because I needed to breathe without the taste of her lies in my lungs. My hands didn't shake. My lips didn't move. I just stared at the windshield, the condensation crawling slowly like a clock ticking in reverse. She wasn't just cheating. She was gone. She had already moved on, emotionally, physically, down to the way she wore her smile like a mask that only slipped when she forgot I was watching. And I realized, in that still, surgical moment, that there was no saving this. No therapy. No talk. No fight worth having. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't plead. I wouldn't scream or cry or ask why. No, I would calculate. Strategize. Assemble every lie, every slip, every breadcrumb she left in her careless parade of deceit. And I would give her a gift she'd never forget, a final performance in the one place she'd never expect. Because the woman behind that locked door wasn't my wife anymore. She was just a target. And I had just found my war face. I became invisible. Not literally, of course, but functionally, I erased myself from her awareness. I smiled when expected, nodded in the right places, made dinner on Thursdays, kissed her forehead like a man who still believed. But behind the mask, I was sharpening my knives. The first thing I did was rewire the doorbell camera to a private server. She thought it was still disconnected from that day she had her visitor, but now it backed up footage silently, hourly, to a hidden folder on a drive she didn't know existed. Then I synced her calendar to an old tablet I'd kept buried in my toolbox, back from the days when we used to share every appointment like a real couple. She never unlinked it. Amateur mistake. Every yoga night, every catch-up coffee, every mental health reset, I watched the times, the patterns, the mileage. She was consistent in her lies, which made her easier to map. When she said she was heading to her therapist's office, I sent a flower delivery to that building addressed to her maiden name, just a simple bouquet with a note saying, "Sorry I missed you." She never mentioned it when she got home. The receptionist I called the next day said no one by that name had an appointment there for over 3 months. Not even on a wait list. Checkmate. I started tracking small expenses, unusual Venmo charges labeled with vague terms like "for lunch" and "LOL you owe me." Each time she paid someone new, I checked the recipient's profile. One of them? A man named Andrew. Profile picture. Her gym's parking lot, 2 weeks ago, timestamped. The same day she came home exhausted from a workout and claimed she pulled a muscle. I downloaded every image, every name, every conversation. I even backed up her cloud because she made the mistake of syncing her phone to our shared laptop years ago. All it took was reactivating the sync and watching the files roll in screenshots, selfies she never sent me, a video labeled Tuesday Fun that took every ounce of my control not to open then and there. But no, patience. Patience makes the pain precise. I tested her with fake questions. Casual landmines. One night over dinner, I asked how her friend Rachel was doing. She blinked too long, then said, "Oh, I haven't talked to her in ages." Lie. She was with Rachel just 2 days ago, according to her calendar. Or so I thought. The next day, I texted Rachel myself, from a burner number. Posed as someone from her job asking about a canceled event. Rachel responded quickly, politely, and said she hadn't seen my wife in over a month. Interesting. So Rachel was now her decoy. Every time she mentioned her, it was cover for someone else. I followed the friend instead. Not physically, digitally. I checked Rachel's tagged posts, her Instagram stories, anything that could prove proximity. Nothing ever overlapped with my wife's timeline. So I watched for a new pattern. And there it was. Every third Friday, my wife would grab drinks with the girls, but never came home smelling like alcohol. Just mint and savory. I started following the scent. Quietly. I used a Bluetooth beacon, tiny thing, fits under a bumper magnet. I tagged her car and set a radius trigger for when she left town. Then I waited. 2 weeks later, while she was at brunch, the beacon pinged in a location an hour north, a cozy little cabin-style rental, nestled by the lake. I rented a drone. Not a cheap one with zoom and low-noise rotors. I flew it from a mile away and hovered until I had eyes on the porch. There she was, wrapped in a blanket that wasn't ours, laughing with someone who wasn't me. They kissed like teenagers. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. I just recorded, and then I kept recording. For an hour, I watched them drink wine, feed each other, kiss again. Then I flew the drone home, downloaded the footage, archived it, tagged it. Ready. She had no idea. Not a clue. I still rubbed her feet on movie nights. still folded her laundry, still asked about her day like it mattered. But every answer she gave, I already knew. Every smile was a mirror I held up to her deception. I became a phantom in my own house, watching her rehearse the role of devoted wife while planning her weekend escape routes with the precision of a liar who believes herself untouchable. But she wasn't untouchable. She was predictable. She was sloppy. And soon, she'd be exposed in front of everyone she had fooled. Because I wasn't just preparing proof. I was preparing a performance. And the best part? She still kissed me goodnight. Still whispered, "I love you," with the confidence of a woman who thought she had me caged. But the door had been open for weeks. I was already outside. Watching. Waiting. Ready. It was her birthday, perfect timing. She loved attention more than anything. So I planned a dinner for her at a high-end rooftop restaurant downtown, the kind of place with string lights, slow jazz, and overpriced appetizers in microscopic portions. She thought it was just us, just the two of us trying to reconnect. Her word, not mine. She wore the red dress I'd always liked, the one that hugged her curves and made heads turn. Except tonight, I didn't feel admiration. I felt calculation. I was polite, smiling just enough, asking her about work, her new wellness routine, pretending not to know the scent on her skin wasn't from the bottle I gave her last Christmas. We sat by the glass wall overlooking the city, champagne in front of us, and she looked so comfortable in the lie that I almost laughed. Halfway through the main course, I gave the signal. Across the room, my friend Nathan tapped his phone, and the projector screen meant for private events flickered to life. She didn't notice at first, until the screen lit up with the image of her and Andrew in that lakeside cabin, wrapped in a blanket, wine glasses in hand. The restaurant fell into hushed murmurs. She froze mid-bite. Her fork clinked against the plate. Then came the video, the drone footage of her leaning over, kissing him, her hand disappearing beneath the blanket. The entire room watched in complete silence. Then I looked at her and said, softly, "You lied to everyone. But mostly, you lied to someone who never stopped protecting you." She blinked fast, cheeks flushed with a rush of panic, and stammered, "It's not what it looks like." I tilted my head slightly, as if amused by her creativity. "Then tell me," I said, "how long have you been hugging your co-workers like that in rented cabins?" She opened her mouth, then closed it, then switched gears. "We were just talking. It was emotional support. Things have been distant between us for a while, and I needed clarity." Her voice shook, but she kept trying to find the right excuse, the right tone that would spin this into something forgivable. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't planned. We just connected. I didn't respond. I just poured more water into her glass, slow, steady, like I had all night. Her tone shifted. "You never noticed me anymore. You were always busy, always distant. I felt like I was invisible in this house." Ah, the script. There it was. My fault somehow. I leaned forward, voice low, calm as a scalpel. "I didn't stop noticing you. I just didn't recognize what you were becoming." She flinched at that, tiny, but visible. Then came the sneer, the false confidence. "So what? You wanted to humiliate me? You think this makes you strong?" I shrugged gently. "No, this makes me free." Her eyes darted around the room, seeing the eyes watching, the judgment washing over her like slow acid. "You think anyone's perfect?" she spat. "You're not some saint, sitting there acting like the victim. Relationships are complicated. People change. We grow out of each other." She was unraveling, losing the crowd. I stayed composed. "Yes," I said, "people change. But they don't usually lie to the one who paid for their phone bill while they texted someone else under the dinner table." The color drained from her face. Silence fell between us, thick as concrete. "So what happens now?" she asked finally, her voice smaller. Not angry anymore. Not bold. Just exposed. "Now," I repeated, leaning back. "Now we see what happens when the truth no longer hides in the dark." She opened her mouth to speak again, but I held up a hand. The room was watching. The tension was surgical. I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. She followed me into the parking garage after the dinner, heels clicking against the concrete like gunfire, breath fast, voice sharp, slicing the air with accusations wrapped in desperation. "You set me up," she hissed. "You humiliated me in front of strangers." I said nothing. Just unlocked the car and let the silence eat her alive. "You're disgusting," she spat, circling me, trying to catch my eye, clawing at whatever thread of control she thought still existed. "What kind of man does this to his wife?" I opened the door, tossed my keys inside, and leaned against the frame, finally meeting her eyes. The kind who spent years being lied to by someone who used the word honesty like a prop. She blinked, staggered for a beat, then her face twisted into something darker. You smothered me. You were always around, always watching. Do you know how exhausting it is to feel like you're in a cage every damn day? I tilted my head, calm as a surgeon. You called it love when it served you. Now you call it suffocation. Convenient. She scoffed, turning away like she couldn't bear to look at me, then spun back around, her voice cracking. You were boring. Everything about you was predictable. Work, dinner, sleep, repeat. I needed more. I needed to feel alive. Her voice echoed in the cold garage, and for a moment, I just watched her unravel, piece by piece. So you chose him? I asked, my voice flat. The man who can't hold a job longer than 6 months? That's your upgrade. He listens to me, she shouted. He makes me feel seen. Not like you, always fixing things, always in control. You never let me breathe. I nodded once, slow and deliberate. You were never suffocating. You were just hiding. And I stopped being your cover. Her hands clenched into fists, her voice now shrill. You think you're better than me? You think this makes you some kind of saint? You're pathetic. You set this all up because you couldn't keep me happy, and now you're throwing a tantrum like a coward. I almost smiled. Almost. No tantrum, I said. Just a mirror. You don't like what you see in it. She stepped closer, her breath hot with fury, eyes gleaming. This wouldn't have happened if you were a real man. My silence after that was thunderous. Her words hung there, desperate for a reaction, but I gave her nothing. No anger. No sorrow. Just the blank, unshakable truth that she no longer had access to me. And that realization, God, it hit her harder than anything I could have said. Her face crumbled for a second, then twisted again, reaching for something else, any weapon. I gave you everything. I sacrificed for you. You think you're so righteous, but you just waited, like a snake, to strike the moment I was weak. No, I said, quietly. I waited for the moment you exposed yourself. You just made it easy. Her breath caught. Her eyes welled, but there was no warmth in them, just a panic that ran bone deep, the kind that happens when the mask is gone and nothing's left underneath. I made a mistake, she said finally, her voice breaking, softening. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I felt lost. You didn't get lost, I replied. You walked off the path and burned the map behind you. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, makeup smudging, trembling now. So what? You're done? You're just walking away. I looked at her, really looked, at the woman I used to love, now hollowed out by her own lies. You ended this the day you stopped coming home to us and started coming home to your secret. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She tried to reach for me physically, emotionally, it didn't matter, but I stepped aside. No cruelty, just clarity, the kind that left no doubt. And that, more than any insult, broke her. Because she saw it now. She wasn't in control anymore. The lies didn't work. The guilt didn't land. The rage didn't shake me. She couldn't get to me, not with her words, not with her tears, not with her body. And that silence, that icy, unreachable distance, was the one thing she never prepared for. She stood there, defeated but too proud to admit it, trembling in the cold, still clinging to the echo of a power she no longer had. And I stood still, not out of mercy, not out of indecision, but because the final blow hadn't landed yet. And I wanted her to feel the weight of every second leading up to it. The moment I closed the car door that night, I started the clock. Not out of vengeance, but out of duty to myself, to the years I spent honoring someone who spat on loyalty, and to the version of me that deserved better. Revenge wasn't a scream. It wasn't chaos. It was order. And I knew how to build systems better than she knew how to lie. The first thing I did was visit the bank in person, not a call, not online. Face to face. I removed her from our joint accounts, froze the cards, transferred funds into an account under my name only. I'd already gathered every financial receipt over the past year, marked every transaction that didn't make sense, printed it, dated it, cross-referenced it with her text messages and locations. She thought dinner with Rachel could hide a hotel charge? She thought I wouldn't catch therapy sessions coded as spa payments under someone else's name? Every financial inconsistency became part of the file. The file, thick, time-stamped, unshakable, became my holy scripture. Next, I made copies of every message, photo, and video, uploaded them to a private drive, an encrypted server, 2 external hard drives, and 3 flash drives, one of which I mailed to my brother with a sealed note. Only open if I disappear or get legally ambushed. Then came the digital access. I logged into our streaming accounts, our smart devices, our shared cloud storage, changed passwords, removed her devices, wiped location sharing. The Spotify playlist we built together? Gone. The Google Calendar where she tracked yoga but synced reminders with her affair partner? Locked. I pulled the house smart locks offline, reset them manually, changed the code. She wouldn't even be able to get inside without asking me first. And when she did, I'd let her just once, so I could record her reaction as she realized every drawer, every shelf, every hanger of hers had been packed and moved into a storage unit under her maiden name. Rent paid for 3 months. After that, not my problem. I booked a consultation with a divorce attorney I'd researched 2 weeks earlier, someone with a reputation for being methodical, emotionless, ruthless. I walked in with a smile and a flash drive. She didn't even blink as she reviewed it. "You'll have everything," she said. And I would. I requested sole ownership of the house based on documented infidelity and misuse of joint finances. Filed for divorce quietly, using a private service that wouldn't alert her until the timing was right. Then I contacted her employer, not through accusation, but through exposure. I sent them an anonymous tip with screenshots of her using company time and resources to coordinate her affair. IP logs don't lie. I included the timestamped photo of her lover using the company car, parked outside that cabin. The HR rep didn't reply. But 2 days later, I saw the formal review scheduled on her digital calendar. She wouldn't see it until Monday. She still thought she was safe. Still thought we were figuring it out. I wrote a letter to her parents. No venom, no blame. Just the truth. With evidence. I mailed it with printed photos of the affair, the timeline, her messages that mocked me. No commentary, no insults. Just facts. Then I sent similar letters, customized, to the friends who stood beside us at our wedding. The ones who knew me, who believed in our story. I didn't tell them what to think. I just showed them what was real. The silence that followed was deafening for her. Her phone stopped buzzing as much. The likes on her curated Instagram life started dropping. Slowly. Consistently. Because her audience was shrinking, and she didn't know why. I canceled the second car's insurance, reported it as exclusively used by a non-owner. I shut down the shared phone plan. I transferred the utilities in my name only and scheduled the internet cancellation for a day she'd be home, alone, disconnected, confused. The next phase? Legal notification, served while she was at work, in front of colleagues. It would come sealed, professional, cold. Just like she had been. She'd call, maybe text, maybe rage. I wouldn't answer. I was already gone. I had already stripped her access to the financial pipeline, the digital heartbeat, the social circle. She'd reach for her support system and find only dust. Because she played a selfish game. But I wrote the ending. And the beauty of it? She still thought she had time. Still thought she could talk her way out, pivot, manipulate. But I wasn't even in the arena anymore. I was in the control room, flipping every switch, one by one, until her world dimmed to black. It was her company's spring networking gala, a formal affair she'd been bragging about for weeks, the one where she was meant to give a short keynote on integrity and branding. I volunteered to escort her, pressed her dress myself that afternoon, adjusted her necklace before we left. She smiled at me in the mirror, oblivious. The venue was a sleek glass building downtown, filled with suits, smiles, and the sound of expensive champagne flutes clinking above silent rivalries. I shook hands, made small talk, stayed at her side just long enough to give the illusion of unity. But everyone in that room already knew. I'd made sure of it. The day before, I sent a package, digitally and physically, to her company's senior leadership. It contained a curated selection of her indiscretions, messages coordinated during office hours, photos of her in that rented cabin while she was working remotely, timestamps proving the company car was used for personal reasons. No commentary. Just data. Clean. Clinical. Damning. I included one specific email where she rescheduled a client pitch so she could meet Andrew, her affair partner, at a boutique hotel. And I sent a copy of the reservation under his name. The VP of Marketing, a no-nonsense woman with eyes that could cut steel, received it first. The head of HR confirmed receipt next. By the time we arrived, the truth had spread like fire behind a thin wall of polite smiles. No one said anything. No one needed to. But the room felt different. Tighter. Quieter. She didn't notice at first. She was too busy scanning the crowd, expecting admiration. Then came the first ripple. A colleague she once called her work wife walked past without a glance. Another one, who used to flirt too freely, looked away like she was contagious. She turned to me, a tight laugh in her throat. Weird vibe tonight, huh? I just smiled. Must be something in the air. 10 minutes later, the VP approached her with the soft cruelty of corporate civility. Could we speak in private? My wife's smile faltered for the first time, but she nodded, still performing. I watched them disappear into a glass-walled side office. I didn't move. I just stood where I was, chatting with a couple from another firm, sipping water like nothing at all was happening. 20 minutes passed. When she emerged, her face was pale beneath her makeup, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her clutch like a lifeline. She tried to walk back to me with poise, but her heels betrayed her, a stumble, a stutter in her step that only I noticed. Or maybe everyone did. Her eyes searched the room for an ally. Found none. A few minutes later, the host called her name to approach the podium. It was her moment, the moment she had fantasized about. She stood tall, walked to the stage, cleared her throat. But her voice cracked on the first word. Good evening. A pause. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. She tried to speak again. Tonight, I want to talk about trust. A silence fell across the room so complete it echoed. One of the screens behind her flickered. A glitch. Then, unexpectedly, it lit up, not with her prepared slides, but with the opening frame of a message thread. Her message thread. The one with Andrew. I hadn't hacked anything. I timed it. I sent the file to the AV team anonymously, labeled Presentation Backup, from her name, with a note saying she requested it. It autoplayed. The audience watched her messages scroll across the screen. I wish he wasn't home tonight. You make me feel like I'm 20 again. Can't wait to get away this weekend. He's so clueless. Someone in the audience coughed. Someone else gasped. Her mic was still on. Turn it off, she snapped, voice sharp, cracking through the silence like a whip. But it was too late. The illusion was gone. The crowd was no longer a crowd, it was a jury. She fumbled with the clicker, tried to switch slides, but the video transitioned. There she was, on camera, kissing Andrew in front of that cabin, laughing like a teenager while wrapped in a blanket that didn't belong to us. She turned away from the screen, hands up, eyes wild. This is fake, she shouted. This is someone trying to destroy me. But no one believed her. Not anymore. The host took the mic from her gently, whispered something in her ear. She nodded, mechanical, and walked off the stage like a ghost, face hollow, stride broken. She came straight to me. You did this, she hissed, barely audible. You think this makes you strong? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just looked at her, really looked. And she saw it. The calm, the detachment, the freedom. Her lips trembled, her mask cracking fully now. You ruined my life, she whispered. No, I said. You just finally got to see what it looks like without lies holding it up. She stared at me, waiting for more. A plea. A curse. A threat. But I gave her nothing. I just stood there as the people she once impressed walked past her like she was invisible. She tried to hold her head high, but her body sagged under the weight of what she'd built and what I had just dismantled. And I didn't walk away. I stayed. I watched. I let her feel every second of the collapse. Because sometimes the deepest cut isn't what you say, it's what you let them see in your silence. It happened 3 days after the gala, at her parents' house of all places, the same living room where we celebrated our engagement, our anniversaries, birthdays that now felt like someone else's life. Her mother had insisted on a private conversation, but private became public fast when her father, my brother, a few cousins, and even 2 of her coworkers who had just stopped by were already seated in awkward, tiptoed silence when I arrived. She was pacing, eyes red, breathing fast like a cornered animal. I walked in and didn't bother with greetings. She spun toward me the second the door closed. You smug piece of, she started, voice loud, wild. You think you're some kind of hero? You destroyed me in front of my company. You ruined my job, my reputation. No, I cut her off, voice low but slicing. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped protecting what you were pretending to be. The room tensed. Her father looked down. Her mother opened her mouth, but couldn't form words. You humiliated me, she screamed, stepping toward me, pointing like I was the villain in her fairy tale turned horror film. You planned this for weeks, like a psychopath. Like someone obsessed with control. Control? I repeated, eyes locked on her. Control is showing up to our bed with someone else's cologne on your skin and lying straight to my face. Control is convincing yourself you're the victim while cheating with a man whose most consistent job is boyfriend of the month. That one landed. She recoiled like she'd been slapped. Her friends at the edge of the room exchanged glances. One of them took out her phone, recording. Maybe. Good. Let them remember this. You never loved me, she snapped. You loved the version of me that cooked and smiled and made you feel like a man. But I'm not that anymore. No, I said, voice sharper. Now you're someone who cheats, lies, gaslights, and calls it growth. You didn't evolve. You decayed. Her mother gasped. My brother stepped forward, just enough to show he was ready if things escalated. They wouldn't. I wouldn't let it get there. You emotionally abandoned me long before Andrew ever touched me, she shouted now, flailing with the desperation of someone who knows the crowd is slipping away. You shut down. You stopped caring. You made me feel invisible. Invisible. I stepped toward her now, each word measured like a blade. I canceled vacations to stay when you had anxiety attacks. I skipped out on promotions to be home more often because you said you needed emotional presence. I rubbed your back for hours while you cried over problems you created. You were never invisible. I just stopped being blind. Her friends winced. Her father stood up. That's enough, he started, but she turned on him next. Don't you dare, she screamed, pointing now at her parents. You're just eating this up, aren't you? Finally, a reason to be disappointed. Newsflash, I'm not your perfect daughter. Her mother started crying. I stayed still. Let it burn. Let her dig. You all think he's some saint, she snarled now, eyes wild, scanning the room for a single person who might still be on her side. You think this was all me? He was cold. Boring. Predictable. I felt like I was dying inside. And instead of communicating, I said, louder now so the room would hear it all, you opened your legs to a loser and fed me lies while smiling over breakfast. Silence. A silence so complete it rang. You're disgusting, she hissed, tears mixing with makeup, streaking her face. You ruined everything. I revealed everything, I corrected. You just never thought the truth would survive daylight. Her friend stepped forward, meekly, uncertain. Maybe we should just cool off, take a second. No, I said. We're not cooling off. We're ending this. Right now. Right here. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Like the man she manipulated for years had finally vanished. And he had. You had chances, I said. Every night I looked at you and still chose to stay. Every day I made excuses for the shift in your eyes, the cold shoulder, the fake smiles. I gave you grace. You gave me betrayal. So don't cry now that the mask is off. She turned, stumbled slightly, collapsed into the couch, sobbing, defeated. No one moved to console her. Not even her friends. My brother opened the door for me. I didn't rush. I looked at every face in that room, the ones who once toasted us with champagne and fake smiles. Then I looked back at her, curled in a ball, broken by truth, not by me. You wanted freedom, I said calmly. Now you've got it. Enjoy it alone. And I walked out. Dignified. Unshaken. Untouched by the wreckage she'd made her home. She lost everything, slowly at first, then all at once, like a building collapsing floor by floor until nothing remained but dust and the memory of something once stable. Her company, desperate to save face, issued a quiet termination just 1 week after the gala, citing professional misconduct and breach of ethics, though the real reason never made it to print, only through whispers behind closed doors. Messages left on read, and polite smiles that disappeared the second she turned her back. Friends unfollowed her, one by one. Some blocked her. The ones who used to praise her strength, her style, her light posted vague stories about betrayal and loyalty, and everyone knew who they meant. Her parents wouldn't return her calls, her mother too humiliated to speak, her father too disgusted to pretend anymore. Her sister told her to take time to reflect, which was family code for, you're not welcome here until we forget your name. The affair partner, the man she said made her feel young again, vanished the moment she was no longer a secret. No more hotels, no more getaways, no more stolen kisses in parking lots. He blocked her on everything within 24 hours of the fallout, left her with a single message. Sorry, I can't deal with this drama. She moved out of town shortly after, rented a small, one-bedroom in a dying suburb 2 hours away, started working the register at a small boutique where the owner didn't care about past drama, which really meant they needed cheap labor and didn't ask questions. She dyed her hair, started wearing hoodies 3 sizes too big, and flinched every time someone looked at her too long in a grocery store. I didn't hear from her for almost a month. Then one night, the doorbell rang 2:13 a.m., raining quiet. I checked the camera first. There she was, drenched, mascara streaked, gripping a soaked envelope in one hand and her phone in the other like she didn't know which one would save her. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. The intercom was enough. "Go home," I said. "This is my home," she whispered, voice shaking through the speaker. "No," I replied. "This was the scene of your crime, and I already scrubbed it clean." She slid the envelope under the door, letters, pictures, apologies scrawled in handwriting that shook like her voice, every word soaked in self-pity and regret, not one of them worth answering. I left it there until morning, threw it away with the rest of the trash. 2 weeks later, she called. I answered. Not to talk, just to listen. She cried immediately, said she'd changed, said she was broken, that she thought about me every night, that she couldn't sleep without the sound of my voice in her head. "I still love you," she said, the words hitting like a stone thrown into a dry well. "Strange," I replied. "I don't even remember your name anymore." The silence after that was pure. Still. Heavy. She tried to speak again, but I hung up before she could. Blocked her number. Blocked her email. Wiped the last traces of her from my life like graffiti on a wall I no longer lived behind. And that was it. Her story ended the moment she thought I would never leave, and mine began the moment I did. She taught me one lesson better than any teacher ever could. Some people aren't mistakes, they're warnings. And now, I live with peace. Because you can forgive someone and still leave them in the hell they built with their own hands. Thanks for listening to my story. Where are you from? And tell me, did you enjoy it?